We only have 2 lessons remaining in our 12-week journey for our volunteers in the 7th episode of our experimental challenge to see if online golf instruction really works. Is there some merit to online instruction, or is this another scheme from the golf industry? Before we get going, if you like this, please consider liking, sharing, or even subscribing as we donate profits from this channel and our development academies to the Hilderhood Foundation for Low-Income Children to give them a pathway into golf. But enough of that jargon. Get ready for episode 7 of The Great Experiment. Ladies and gentlemen of the Line Golf Academy, welcome back. Hannes was the only one this week to submit his swing. So Hannes, you're going to get a little bit more detail on your motions. What I have is your old swing on the left, which is the first one you ever sent me prior to this experiment, and the newest one on the right side. We can see some address changes. We can see the hands are getting closer to the center of the chest. See the golf ball on the right side of the new motion is about a golf ball behind. With the one on the left side, we can see this big forward press. Now obviously you've already started the backswing, so I would imagine your forward press would be here. So you can still see it's less forward press, but you need to try and get that golf ball more connected to your center of your spine. It makes things a lot easier to release the club, because essentially right now your bottom of the circle is slightly behind the center of you. Now if you have any lean left forward of the target at impact, you really have to activate your hands, which is what you do actually, and we're going to start working on this motion. So before we get to that, really try and do me a favor and get things lined up. So you need to feel like your hands are pulling back to the center. Imagine everything is on a straight line to that center point. Now we're just going to take a quick look at the old motion, quick look at the new motion, and I'm going to bring up Hannes's new down the line so we can kind of see what's going on. So the old motion, we can see at the top of his swing, we see the club shaft getting right in between his head. Now know that this is a little lower camera angle, so it will give that perception. The new motion, we can see that club is getting much higher. We see a deeper shoulder turn. We also see a steeper shoulder turn. So the left shoulder is definitely getting lower, which brings those hands much higher. So Hannes, if you can stop right there, that is all you need. You just need your shoulders to be about there, because the rest of this motion, you can see back here, what happens to that upper body starts tipping towards the target, and that starts making you lean heavy left side. And what you've done is you move that golf ball position so far back off your right shoulder that your hands really have to activate and flip through. But let's take a look at the big thing. Let's look at impact. So let's go to the left side impact, and what we can see is look at the footwork. So I don't know if you guys can tell, but that left toe is way up in the air. We see a lot of heel-based motion, where at least the new motion, we see a little bit more centered. So that is a good news, good thing that's happening there. Secondly, we also see more upright at impact, and the follow through, we can see it's more upright, where the old follow through, we can start to see you leaning back towards your spine angle. So we can see you're trying to remain a little bit more upright, which is great for that lower back. It's good for productivity of your weight transfer, and we can see that your left foot's really staying down more than your old left foot, and we're not seeing as much spinning out. We can see that right knee is just behind the left knee, where here the right knee and the left knee are one line. So let's get down to the nitty gritty. Let's pull up your other down the line. Let's take a look at how we can help you move forward to the next level. Okay, we have Hannes's down the line, left side, face on, right side, and we've got the basic lines to talk about the overall motion, weight distribution, plane work, and I think, Hannes, you've made some exceptional improvements, specifically in this frame right here. We can see that club head makes those hands disappear almost on that lower plane line. If you want to get that left shoulder to tilt down a little bit more, those hands will get on that plane line, and that's where we want them to be. So in terms of your club face angle, slightly close to your spine angle, but this is so much better. At least you're getting them slowly connected to each other and also to your spine. So if you can think about that left shoulder getting down sooner, that'll get your hand path to be more inside, which will help you in this next move, because from this position you can see your hands want to go straight up in the sky, which they do a really good job, and we can see you get almost on that secondary plane. But you take a look where that club head is trying to find that lower plane, but it doesn't need to find that plane yet. So a couple things are happening here. The weight distribution of that club is now rolling open, so we can see that club head is open to your left forearm. So from the midway point to the top of your swing, you are rolling your hands, which is okay to do, but you need to feel that club weight more over your hands. I'm not saying it is impossible to time this, but it definitely requires a little bit more timing, which is what we want to try and avoid unless you like hitting thousands of balls a week. So I think what can really help you with this is get that left shoulder to go down a little bit more, feel the left shoulder going down to the right knee. But first of all, make sure that that setup is correct. Get those hands in line with the golf club and the chest, and then left shoulder down. Great work with the hands. Once you get them to the secondary plane line, feel like that club head weight is more over your hands. So right now, I guarantee you feel a lot of weight in this right hand. You want to feel it more equal. So if you take this club head and move it on this side, I guarantee you'll feel the weight on your left hand. So try to get in a position where you feel the weight in the center. And this should help you get to that secondary plane a lot easier. And now when you drop down, that club can actually fall in the slot, because what it is going to do is it's going to fight its way back down. Now that is assuming that your backswing stops there. Now if we go up a couple more frames, we can see that backswing still goes, but you can see that's all hands and arms. We don't need all this extra hand-arm manipulation, because you can see your body is completely turned. Your body's not turning anymore. So on the right side of the screen, let's take a look at that motion. As we take that club back, pretty good one-piece takeaway like we've been working on. We know those hands and the club head are matching. Get to the top plane line, and we can see here this extra motion. We don't need all that extra motion. So I want you to watch where your shoulders stop turning. They stop turning right about there. That is where your backswing should be in terms of your arm position. Club is nowhere near parallel, and they're still connected to this nice wide turn, and that's what we're looking for. But if we see we keep rolling, watch what happens to your turn. It doesn't really turn anymore, but look at that club now. Your club is moving back, and that weighting of the club head is tipping your spine angle slightly ahead of where it needs to be. Now you're definitely stacking, tilting it, but there's no tilt. If you can get to that new position, you will eliminate all this extra angles that you need to try and get that club back out in front of you. All that angle says is, hey, I'm this far behind where I need to be. So in 0.2 seconds, which is the downswing, your hands are now going to have to retime to get back out in front of you. And when you have to throw your hands back out in front of your chest, that's where plane problems come in. You can become very steep, your club head goes out to in, and pair that with the position on the left side, we can see how far back that club has to come from when your hands are trying to work their way down, which they do a pretty decent job there. You can see they're coming down, and now your body's going to turn. Look at that club face. It is still laid off, and there's only one way to correct that. The hands now need to try and take over, which they do. They pull it down in the slot, which is great, but watch what happens. They're going to keep overactive, and now we can see that club head is working outside of your hands, and the club head is now back to being square with a fairly neutral impact position, which means both shoulders and hips are about level. Now that spells problems, because if you keep turning and you have any sort of release, that ball's going so far left that you have to develop a blocking motion. Let's take a look at how you activate this. Your hands will now try and square up and catch up with the body. They do a pretty good job here, but the body has to stop that rotation. And when they stop their rotation, they have to make some room for the hands and arms to move through. And we can see we're still getting a slight crunch. You're slightly crunching into the golf ball, and you start to lose a little bit of this angle with your spine, and we can see a little bit of a hunched back. And that's because the hands are playing catch up, and when they play catch up, your body needs to stop to allow them to play catch up. Right side of the screen, let's take a look at that motion. We start with a left side move because most of that weight is stuck on the left side since that club went too far back. We're trying to get to the left side. We do a good job, but now is where your hands are so far behind the game. They've got to make about 180 degrees of angle in that short time frame, and pair that and take a look. Let me draw a new color here. Let's pick Barney purple, and we're going to put that golf ball straight up to the sky. And now you see that golf ball position is now off your right shoulder. As you come on through, your body's leaning left. You can see all that weight on the left side of your impact line, and your hands are now playing catch up, and they have to flip to make contact with that golf ball. So we now return to a neutral position, which is where I want you to start with. So you can see your hands and arms are very good to find that neutral position. If you start with the forward press, hands way ahead, they will find their way. Then there are only ways to overactivate, which means you stop turning, or you have to develop a strong turn and hold off the release, which most of us cannot do. So we choose the former option, where our hands try to help you out. We can see once we strike that golf ball, your hands are still kind of closing that club face. They're relatively connected, but if we draw a straight line right here, they're already connected to your right shoulder, which means that's a lot of hand manipulation, as they should be still in line with the center of your chest. So that golf club should be here, but in order to do that, you need a lot of tilt. As we come on through, we can see that club is already connected to the right shoulder. With your setup, that's a challenge because, again, you're using too many hands and arms, but your finish from that point through, it's definitely wider. We can see the body still activated, so you can see how the body wants to turn, but it has to stop to allow the hands and arms to play catch up, and then it reignites and turns again. So if you can eliminate that top of your swing, now it is one of the hardest things to do because it happens so fast, and it's mostly momentum that takes that club back. So if your backswing is any sort of real swing speed or a little bit too quick, that club head's going to veer back before you know it. So the only way to do this is with diligent camera work, diligent mirror work, getting the feeling of that club head more neutral in your hands, not so much in the right hand and also not so much on the left hand. It's going to feel like you're crossing the line. So crossing the line is basically, let's go to the left side of the screen. At the top of the swing here, your club head is going to feel like it's that. But remember, feel isn't real. You will feel that, but you'll probably be right about there, which is good. From there, we just pull down, and then we can turn. We don't have to catch up with our hands and arms. So your job for next time is to square your setup. Make sure that club head, the hands, and the chest are all in one line. And then from there, take that backswing, stop. Wherever your shoulders stop turning, get your hands out. Left shoulder down to help you do that, to help you get your hands on that lower plane line. It's a lot of work. We only have 1 or 2 more lessons left with you, so best of luck to you. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. And for those of you at home, if you like this, hit that like and subscribe. That really helps me know if you want a season 2 for this, and we will take volunteers. And also, we've got a great interview lined up with Owen Meads, a long drive champion. So stay tuned for that. That's coming out next week. Hope that helps you, everybody. Fairways and greens.